Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and this current generation just does not care about retro games. And so preserving them is a waste of time. Or at least that's what I often get in my comments whenever I have the conversation around buying, collecting, or preserving original retro video games. Now, this is something that isn't just exclusive to me. I see comments like this on other YouTube channels whenever the conversation is being had around collecting and preserving original hardware or original retro video games. What you'll have individuals who believe that this current generation has zero interest in retro video games and that future generations will completely forget about retro games altogether. And these folks hold this belief and say that because of this, preserving retro video games, collecting retro video games is a waste of time because no one is going to care. They also have this conversation whenever we talk about the prices of retro video games. A lot of times you have a lot of people, especially people who subscribe to emulation, who subscribe to digital platforms for their gaming. A lot of those people believe that the prices of retro video games also are going to ultimately crash because of the fact that there will be no buyers for these forms of media. They believe that 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, no one's going to have an original PlayStation. No one's going to have an original Sega Genesis. They believe that everyone is eventually going to migrate over to these emulation devices or these, digital platforms that will become the primary source for their gaming entertainment. And I do think that there is some truth to that statement. However, I do think it's also a little bit misleading. And I really want to give, hopefully, a clear breakdown of how I feel this will play out. Now, I do believe that there is a portion of this generation, the children of this generation and future generations. I do believe that there is a portion of that group that will not care about retro video games. But here's the reason why. It's the same reason why this generation and future generations won't care about, AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur. It's the same reason these people will not care about Sean Connery or Danny DeVito or Catherine Zeta-Jones or Boys to Men or Hulk Hogan or The Rock or, geez, let's go back. I mean, they won't care about movies like The Matrix. They won't care about movies like Tombstone or The Godfather or A Few Good Men. It's the same reason that future generations will slowly stop caring about a lot of the things that made different eras and time periods in history great. You have generations that just completely out of sight, out of mind, certain aspects of pop culture that just are not relevant to them. And unfortunately, we live in a very microwave generation. And when I say microwave generation, what do I mean? What I mean is when a really good movie came out in the early 90s, it was something you talked about for months and months and sometimes years because you had enough time to sit with that piece of media and enjoy it and appreciate it for what it was. When your favorite artist, when Eminem dropped the album in the late 90s, it was something that you sat with and played and people talked about it and broke down the songs and broke down the lyrics. When Biggie or Tupac or anybody that was your favorite artist in the 90s came out with an album, you actually sat with it. Today, someone could drop a classic album and in about 2 weeks, people are on to the next thing. Kids are on to the next artist, they're on to the next YouTube stream, they're on to the next. And I think it's because of a almost kind of like a loss of attention span. This generation can't stay focused on any one thing because they have more media being thrown at them than at any other point in history. So I would expect a portion of this generation to completely neglect retro video games and stop caring about video games, because there's a portion of this generation that's going to forget about almost everything, and they're only really going to care about what's immediately in front of them at that specific moment in time. And that's just a byproduct of living in an information age. It's the age of information. It's the age of media. It's the age of nonstop 24/7 new flashes of information, new videos, new screen pop-ups, new things being put in front of your eyes that takes away your ability to really sit with one thing and really absorb and appreciate it. So I think because of that, we're just inevitably going to have a portion of the future that just doesn't care about anything before their time. Now, I do believe, though, that there will always be a portion of the overall gaming community that will always have a love, appreciation, and a desire to collect and preserve video games, because if you think about it, video games is still somewhat of a niche hobby. It's like, yes, I don't want to say that it's niche. Video games overall is mainstream, right? Current gen video games, Switch 2, PS5, but retro video game collecting, retro video game playing, that is very much a niche hobby. And niche hobbies tend to never really die, because if that were the case, then there would be no market for baseball cards, there would be no market for comic books, there would be no market for classic cars or one of a kind first print edition books, um, art. There's always going to be these niches and these pockets where you have a certain number of people really, interested in these certain topics and these certain niche hobbies. And there's a lot of people on this planet. Even if there were only 3 million, 4 million, 5 million people that were dedicated to the hobby of retro video games in the future, that would still be a very small fraction of the overall global population. And I do believe that there will at least be that amount of people still interested in retro video games in the future who want to look back in time and remember a simpler time in gaming, a time where games were a lot more simple to play, a lot more easier to play, a lot more fun. We accepted the games as they were with all of their glitches and breakdowns, and it wasn't about patches and upsells. There will be that small niche group. There will be that small conglomerate of people who will appreciate retro video games in the future. And so this is why I believe that it's still necessary to preserve these games if it's something that you're passionate about. And I do believe that there will be enough of an interest for it to still be viable. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think it's a waste of time, or do you think that this niche market, this niche group of retro game hobbyists will always be around? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.